Hey, Jimmy Spire here. I am the founder and CEO of GlassHouse. I am here today to talk to you about how we raised $1 million in 3 months at the end of 2023. So this was our pre-seed fundraising. It was the first money we took into the business. I'm going to walk you through the process we went through, what I learned, hopefully some traps or some things to focus on. This isn't really about how to write a killer email or how to write or create an awesome deck. There's a lot of great materials and videos online about that already. I really just want to take you through kind of the general process and some of the high level stuff, hopefully so you can move a little faster and be a little more successful. So what was the process that we went through? What did we learn along the way? Where are you going to get the money? So raising that money, have a rich benefactor, always a great start. If you know somebody who has a big pot of money that they can help invest in you, then that's probably the first place you should go. Well, that is kind of a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek comment. Really, what I mean is, where do you plan to raise the money? Are you going to your network? Are you going to investors you worked with before? People that you've worked with at other companies? What is your access to capital? Figure that out because it might make a big difference in the type of raise you're doing, the type of business you're trying to build, what your pitch and your value is going to be, if you understand what your access to capital is going to be in the first place. So think about that process before you start just picking up the phone or cold emailing VCs. Is what is your target investor look like and why are they the people that you want to go after? I actually went out to my network by and large, and we opened that fundraising up from people at $5,000 all the way up to we had a number of six-figure checks invested in us. And so by having a really wide range, we were able to let friends and family participate, some institutional investors, and some angels and high net worth individuals as well. But we did sit down and think about it ahead of time. Where do we want to go? What's our opportunity to look like? Number two, make it easy to find you. If investors can't easily find you or easily find out information about what you're up to, it will make it harder for them to reach out. So set up a LinkedIn account for your business, create even a basic website for your company, become connected in your community, reach out to investors around the area. Are there events you can go to? But create an online and a physical presence. Making it easy to find you will make it easier for you to start those conversations. Once you get those conversations, always be networking. I cannot tell you how many of the people we ultimately ended up connecting with through this process were introductions from people who had either reached out to us or that I had reached out to myself. Every single conversation, who else should we be talking to? Can you introduce me to somebody else? Some of them turned into investors. Some of them just turned into people that were good to know in the industry. Generally, people want to help one another, but you have to ask. If you don't ask, then you're really relying on them to proactively try and help you. Try and help yourself and ask for those introductions. Make sure you sharpen your tools. So this covers a lot of different things, whether it's having really clear presentation materials, having a one-sheeter, a polished deck, good email templates, but spend the time to actually work on all of that digital collateral. Spend the money to get somebody to polish up your deck, to polish up your materials, to make it look really professional. This is your advertisement for your fundraise. So just like an advertisement on TV or online, the good ones generally get the most attention. So spend time, go through it, refine it, pass it around to a bunch of people who you trust and whose opinion you'd like to get back. And don't be afraid to change it over time. If something's not working, change it. You own this process. It's your business. You're not forced to go down anybody else's path of what they think is necessarily the best practice if it's not working. To that point as well, practice your pitch. Know what you want to say. Know the order of operation. Have your numbers mentally ready. Know everything that you actually want to bring up proactively throughout the process so that you're not just winging it on the call. It will save you a lot of time. You're not going to get a ton of time with these people. You might get 15, 20, 30 minutes for an initial meeting, and you have to basically be able to get through everything you want to talk about yourself, the business, your background, your mission, the goals of the business. So have that all organized and written down and then practice going through it to make sure it fits into the time that you're likely going to have. That way you're not wasting 20 minutes talking about yourself and then you never get to the actual problem you're trying to solve. When you start pitching, Listen to the feedback. I wished I'd learned this a little bit faster, but what I did notice along the way is you kind of get the same questions over and over again. So if there are gaps in your story, if there are problems with your thesis, if there's an issue with your approach, you're going to start hearing those same questions over and over again. And when you start to hear those questions overlap, dig into them. Record your calls if you can, go back and listen to them, figure out what the question that they're trying to understand is based on. And then if you can craft a message that proactively addresses that issue, bring it up early so they don't have to ask. So I've started hearing the same things over and over again. So I started bringing up certain aspects or risks or whatever they were early in the discussion so that I was proactively hitting on them because I had answers. But I wanted to get those answers out right away so that they could kind of assuage any fears or any concerns that they might come from those issues. Make sure you get the legal and the math right. If your numbers don't add up on your deck, that's a huge red flag. If you don't have a deal memo put together, if you don't have an offer sheet, if you don't have any of these legal materials put together, if you don't know if you're doing a safe or a priced round, you don't have a pricing set for your round, if you don't have a goal or a target for your raise, you haven't set any of this actual like legal and math fundamentals, then not only is it going to be very difficult for someone to actually go through a process and ultimately invest in you, but it shows that you may have not put in the rigor and done the due diligence to prepare for the raise itself. So spend the time and potentially a little bit of money to put down a good foundation, put down the legal documents, make sure all your math adds up, and that you can defend it when you're asked. The last one is to set a time frame, and the hard part of that is to stick to it. So nowadays, timeframes might be 3-6 months. We were, I think, really lucky to be able to accomplish this raise in 3 months, just about exactly. But what I learned along that process is set a date that's reasonable, but then stick to that date. If you keep it open-ended, you're really not creating very much urgency. There's really not any reason for anybody to ever feel like they have to write that final check or sign that final commit. So if you set a final date, you are either getting to yes or getting to no. A no is about half as good as a yes. A I don't know and forever holding you up is really a difficult part, especially if you are trying to get to a certain amount to do an initial call. And then maybe you have a couple of, last 5, 10, 15% out there that you're trying to nail down. Set a time frame so that you can get the money you absolutely need to start moving forward with your mission and your project and your plan in the door. Well, you might chase down that last bit, but don't leave it open-ended. Don't let it go on forever, because if you allow it to go on forever, it will go on forever. It'll never be closed because nobody has more urgency than you do. We're going to link to all these materials here in the comments, but if you want to check out any of the stuff we used during this process, happy to share our deck. This is the actual deck we used for our raise. It goes through our problem, our solution, our team. It is approximately 16 slides long plus some appendix, which is optional. I do put those after. That way someone says, if I want to do more research, I can. But I can get through all the meat and potatoes here on the initial 16 slides. We did pay a designer to help us with that. It wasn't overly expensive, but we definitely felt like it helped us put our best foot forward. The other document that I used during this process that I found to be really helpful for me was to keep everything organized, a list of all the targets that we were able to accumulate, whether it be people on my network, other investors that we got introductions to from people we knew, people we were cold emailing, but putting everything in one place and keeping track of those engagements. Once somebody actually got engaged with us, we also kept track of their stage in the process, potential value, who we were talking to, notes. We really ran this like a full sales process with an actual funnel so we could measure the conversions. All that information is now available to me in the future, so I can benchmark timelines, how many people I have to talk to. I kind of have a little bit of a better understanding of conversion rates now, at least for our specific business. The last piece of information is probably the most important in terms of documentation, and that was documenting every single conversation. Who did we talk to? When did we talk to them? What is the focus of that specific investor? What was their final feedback? Notes from the conversation. With over 100 conversations in 3 months, it was impossible to keep all of that straight in my head. Sometimes I might be talking to 5 or 10 or 15 people in a week. So after every conversation, go back, put down the notes. Now I have that information for future fundraising should we need that. I can go back and revisit it, keep track of all these people who might want to be updated for, maybe it's not a good fit today, might be a good fit in the future. So I cannot stress enough, write everything down. A notepad is fine. Document it digitally so you can easily pull it up and you don't lose that notebook. So that's how we did it. Again, 3 months, ran the process, learned a lot along the way. I hope this was helpful. If you want to talk more about this or look at any of our materials or ask questions, please feel free to reach out. Jimmy at glasshouse.biz. Good luck and happy hunting.